In this video, I want to look at sorting again, using both a 1 and 2 argument function to show some of the different results. And this will be kind of fluffy because I can't exactly explain what goes on, but maybe someone can understand it and explain it to me. That would be nice. In any case, I have a simple table with month and a value, and I want to do a sort based on converting the month in text into a number. And then I want to add the value at the end. And my value is a single digit number, and I want to multiply the month by 10 so that January is 10 and February is 20 and so on. And then I want to sort based on that column. I'll add the sort column as an actual column to make it a bit easier to follow along. I can use date.month to grab the month portion, but I have to convert the text into a date, which we can do with date.from to create a text that is then converted into a number where I then extract the month. So I want the month portion, and then I append the year, and it doesn't matter what year I add or what date, as long as it becomes a proper date. And then I want to multiply it by 10, as mentioned, because I only have 1-digit numbers. And then I should add type. First I want to use a 1 argument function using the sort function to do the sort. And this is what I expect. It will take the value and sort in ascending fashion, which is what Table.Sort wants to do natively. But if I then add a comma b, we get different behavior. I don't reference the b value anywhere, and the documentation doesn't even suggest using a 1 argument function, so I can't prove what a comma b means, but I think it takes the current row and the next row, where the next row can be any random row. We see the same behavior in Table.group, as I showed in the video where I looked at grouping based on containing a Danish character. How if I did a global grouping, I could end up with some very wrong results. But if we look here, we can see that it goes to a smaller number, then a greater number, smaller, greater, smaller, now smaller, greater, smaller. And I think behind the scenes, Power Query uses a Value.Compare function, which compares the current row to the next row. That function then outputs 1 if the value on the left or the top row has a greater value, and -1 if it's less. So the difference between 33 and 25 would become 1 because 33 is greater, and then the difference between 25 and 36 is -1 because 25 is smaller. I think the way this works, a comma b sorting, is that it will compare the rows and sort them such that the sum of the difference value.compare to give the smallest number. And I don't think I can add an index column. Yeah, that changes the sort order because Power Query is a bit weird. I've played around with adding stop folding and buffering various places, but it doesn't want to keep that sort. But I can copy this and put it in Excel. And then I can show what I mean, because if we compare the current row to the next row and drag that down, then I can do an if statement, checking if this is above 0, then output 1. I don't have access to the ifs function because I'm in Excel 2016. As mentioned, it will switch between being positive and negative. Here we have 2 positives in a row. Yeah, here we have 2 positives in a row. If we then sum the column, we get 2. Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure how to interpret this. I think Power Query wants to sort the rows such that when you look at the difference between row A and B, and you then do that for each row, and then you sum it like I've shown here. Again, there's no documentation, but that's my best interpretation because I played around with it, and that's the only thing I can come up with that makes sense. But if I actually do what I'm suggesting here with the value compare, this isn't actually what happens. If I use value compare explicitly to compare the A row to the B row, then I get the exact same sort order as if I didn't reference the B row. So I'm not sure exactly what happens. I want to show one other example where I look at a sort where I actually do use both A and B, but I need a different dataset to show it. I've changed a few of the values where this 2 has become 18 and this 7 has become 17 and the 9 has become -3. All I want to do is to take the current row minus the next row, and then we'll see what happens. Once again, I do Table.Sort, and I want to use a 2 argument function, which is a value minus b value. Then we can look at what happens. If we copy that into Excel, just to be able to do calculations, then we can take the current row minus the next row, and that is the actual calculation we do. We can see we get a negative value all the way through. If I then do the value compare that I showed before, and I wrote in my notes that my interpretation is that Power Query wants to sort the rows such that most rows are negative, meaning that the current row has a smaller value than the next value, which is why here in the second last row, both 17 and 18 are greater than 8, which means value.compare would output -1. But if we have 18 in the second last row, then we have 18 followed by 17, but 18 is greater, meaning that would output a 1 in value compare. that wouldn't be the most negative sort order. But I also wrote in my notes that my head is spinning because I can't figure this out exactly. But I wanted to show it so maybe someone can figure it out and explain it to me, because I don't know. I don't know, because honestly I'm stumped here. I don't know why this gives the sort order it does. But yeah,